Good afternoon. Thanks for joining another one of our webinars. Today we're going to talk about Marketplace or e-catalogues or punch out. It's got lots of different names. We refer to it, or we've referred to it over the years as lots of different things. But it is, in fact, the same tool, although it has changed and has evolved over the years. We're going to look at Marketplace today, or e-catalogues, which is one of the Proactis modules. Oh, and my screen's not navigating through, just bear with me. There we go. Okay, so we're going to look at how using the Marketplace or using e-catalogues can help you within your organisation. So instead of having potentially catalogues inside of Proactis that you're having to maintain manually, however frequently your suppliers change their prices that you have negotiated with them, you can actually go out and buy directly from your e-catalogue or from a Marketplace or from a set of suppliers that you have negotiated contracts with via a Marketplace. So you basically don't have to maintain your catalogues internally within Proactis moving forward. Some organisations choose to have this for a single supplier. However, we've recently been talking to our supplier base about having this for multiple suppliers. So obviously where they have negotiated contracts with suppliers, e-catalogues are a much better, much more efficient way of buying for the end user. It's much more streamlined because you have your negotiated prices with your suppliers. The users are directed specifically to buying from that supplier. It helps reduce maverick spend and buying from just ad hoc random suppliers. It improves your supplier relationships at the end of the day, because you are buying from your specific suppliers that you have your contracts with, and the catalogues are all there with the pricing information. You're receiving invoices in from your suppliers that you have relationships with, whereas some organisations that don't necessarily have Marketplace or e-catalogues, or they're buying directly from their supplier base, or they have contracted suppliers, they have users within the organisation that are buying from ad hoc suppliers. Invoices are coming in for suppliers that they don't necessarily even have a relationship, who have even been vetted, who have been approved, who have run through, due diligence processes, who have had the bank details checked, and organisations are often having to pay invoices when they've got no visibility of the spend up front. So with Marketplace, it sits within our purchase to pay area of the module, area of the suite. So on the right hand side, we've got our purchasing modules, our ordering, requisitions, budget checking, invoicing, matching, receipting, and obviously invoice capture as well. And then we've got catalogue management and punch out. And that's what we're going to look at today, really. Obviously, there's more to consider. So the left-hand side of the screen here, your source to contract modules, your supplier network directory, your contract repository. There are lots of conversations to be had around those areas. So obviously, before you even start creating your e-catalogues or your punch outs to your suppliers, you need to talk about who you're working with, who your suppliers are. Have they been vetted? When did you onboard them? Do they need to go through a whole process of really checking who you're working with? And also your contracts. What contracts do you actually have? Do you have existing contracts with your supplier base? Are you getting the best prices from those suppliers that you've been working with in the past? Do you know what contracts you have? So these are all conversations really that tie into kind of what we're going to be looking at today. It's a much bigger picture than just saying we're going to talk about e-catalogues or Marketplace. So I am going to show you software today. I'm not going to show you too many slides, but I just thought it's important that you see, obviously, as Proactis is very modular based, you can have certain elements of it and grow your system as it suits your business needs. And this is just another slide really showing you the flow between the modules. Obviously, you've got P2P, you've got, you know, you're working with your suppliers when you're raising orders or receiving invoices in from your supplier base, but it's a much bigger conversation. You know, if with supplier relationship management, your suppliers have the ability to actually self-serve. They can log in, they can update their credentials, they can update information in relation to what services, goods or services they're providing you with. You can manage communication with your supplier base, with the supplier directory that you have, or within SRM. So you have the ability to send out your questionnaires to your suppliers, or, you know, invite them to re-register at any point in time. And as you move through, obviously you've got contracts with your suppliers. It's, you know, you can have contracts, don't have to have contracts, but where you do have contracts, you need somewhere to store them. So you can link your contracts to your suppliers, or you could have the contract module as a standalone. Where you do have negotiated contracts with your suppliers, you can have that integrated into P2P as well. So as you're raising orders off of your contracts, that information is updating. So the suppliers have got visibility of the orders that have been going through. They've got access to a portal. They can see all the information. They've even got access to potentially create the invoices for those orders that they've been receiving directly from the portal. So it really does open up lots and lots of capabilities when you start to take on board supplier relationship management, contract management, and we're going to be looking at e-catalogues and marketplace today. So buying directly from your supplier site, obviously there'll be a contract in place with your supplier, but buying directly from your supplier's website takes the pain away from the end users having to, firstly, you know what they're buying. You're having to maintain that list of items that are available from your supplier base internally inside your system. Somebody's having to manage the prices, however frequently they change, whether it's once a week, once a month, once a year, it's still a huge overhead. Okay, and you're not necessarily going to get the best prices if you're buying from lots of different types of suppliers, but lots of different suppliers for the same types of goods and services. Okay. When you're using e-catalogues and marketplace, you're buying outside of Proactis. So you're in Proactis, you initiate the transaction from within Proactis, and as you start raising your order, the system takes you outside of Proactis to your catalogue, to your e-catalogue, which the supplier has made available to you through the marketplace. So you can have this with multiple different suppliers. You can compare prices across your supplier base if you've got your multiple suppliers within your marketplace. Okay, and directly from there, you can see the items, you can see the prices that the supplier is maintaining for you, so you're not having to do this. You add the items to your basket, and when you're ready to check out, you check out and it brings them back into Proactis, back onto your purchase order. So you're back in Proactis using core Proactis functionality. The order will then go off for approval. It can be budget checked, it can be rejected if necessary, or it can be approved. Once it's approved, at that point, you have the ability to send the order out electronically to the supplier. So we're not talking about paper-based orders anymore or email PDFs. It's going out electronically directly back to our supplier's website. There'll be a feed. Okay, the supplier, if you have all your suppliers onboarded through SRM, you're using the SRM module, the suppliers at that point will have visibility of the order. They're notified that they've got an order that's been raised. They can view it from the portal, but it will update their system. And then when it's invoiced, the supplier will invoice you. That will come directly back into Proactis. So there is three things there. You've got your e-catalogue marketplace, which we're going to look at today. And then you do have the capability to generate electronic orders that go out to your suppliers and also electronic invoices. So there are three elements to it. You don't have to have them all. You can have them independently if you choose, but most of our organisations, when they choose to go down the e-catalogue route, they would also complement that with e-ordering and e-invoicing as well. Okay, and that's where you will get the most efficiencies. So you're streamlining your process, you're reducing maverick spend, your suppliers are being paid on time. You're very, very unlikely to get discrepancies because the orders are being raised with the correct pricing information based on what the supplier has provided you. So the whole process, as the invoices come in, they should match, they can go off and be paid straight away, improving supplier relationships. Okay. So I'm just going to stop sharing and dip into software and show you actually how this e-catalogue process works. Just bear with me while I launch my demo system and just refresh it because it will have timed out while I've been talking. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, and this is my Proactis demo system that I'm going to be working with today in order to demonstrate this functionality. So I'm going to log in as an employee. Obviously, you use single sign-on. Okay. I've navigated to my Proactis dashboard or activity monitor. It shows me information that relates to what I need to see as a user within the system. Potentially, you could have on here the last orders that you raised against your e-catalogue suppliers if you wanted to, but those can be tailored to show information that relate to you as a user when you're logging in. So I'm just going to navigate to the ordering area of the system. And obviously, you know, we're all familiar with navigating and buying off templates. We're doing something slightly different here now. So what we're going to be doing is navigating to our e-catalogue or our purchase requests. So if you had a single supplier that you were going out to, you could potentially have a single template that was linked to that supplier. And when you access that template, you can go off to the marketplace or punch out to that supplier. However, I've got multiple suppliers that potentially I can buy from, that I've got contracts with, that are holding prices for me outside of Proactis. So I'm going to navigate to my e-catalogue. And within here, it will show me the suppliers that I have configured within my marketplace or within my e-catalogue. There's lots of different terms. It just depends on your preference. You know, some people still call it punch out. Some people call it e-catalogues. Some people call it marketplace. Okay. You can see here I've got Amazon Business. Amazon is a favorite at the moment. A lot of our organizations are looking to work with Amazon and punch out directly to them. It works very, very well. There are a whole heap of suppliers that have already been onboarded through this process that are working with the Proactis application. So if there is a supplier that you're interested in working with, please let us know and we can double check and let you know whether they've already gone through the process of configuring their system so they can provide catalogues that Proactis can link to. Okay, and if they haven't, it's not a huge task, but we can have those conversations with the supplier as well. We've got various navigation options in here. So if I just expand my toolbar, now this is using the new version. So it's using the new user interface where the navigation options are on the left-hand side of the screen. Okay, so I've got product groups, which you're seeing here. If I just minimize that, I can scroll through the product groups that I've got, depending on the types of categories that I want to create to hold those items together. Those are my product groups. I can navigate and view suppliers that I'm working with. Okay, I can create shopping lists if I want to as well. So obviously, if you've got favorites and things like that that you use frequently or that you buy frequently, saving you have to go in and add your shopping list to your cart, however you frequently do it every month, you can create your shopping lists to just ease that process. You can create free text. Potentially, you can create free text requests if your system's configured to do so. There'll be some configuration involved in making sure that it all maps back into Proactis, but that capability is there if you've got permissions and it's configured. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to navigate back to my home screen, and I'm going to firstly start just by creating a simple Amazon order for some batteries. Okay, so I know what I want to buy. I'm going to navigate to my Amazon supplier. So it will launch now. What it's doing, I'm outside of Proactis now, and it's launching the supplier's website. So obviously, this is a website that we're all very, very familiar with. So your end users like this type of buying. As people come into the organization, they like to be buying using familiar tools, you know, rather than old functionality, you know. So it's a great way to retain your employees, giving them the utilities that they're used to using. So obviously you can navigate through the catalogue that you have with Amazon. I'm just going to search for some batteries. Okay, and obviously whatever comes back is presented to me. I can add them to my basket. I can change the quantities if I want to. I can keep adding items to my basket if I like. The search, obviously, the majority of us are familiar with Amazon buying, so I'm not going to talk you through that. But when I'm ready, I can navigate to my basket. Again, this is within the Amazon website. And the process to bring them back into Proactis is to submit the items for approval and then just transfer the shopping cart back to Proactis. So at this point, I can amend if I want to as well. We're not quite back in Proactis yet, but if I transfer my shopping cart, I'm back in Proactis. Okay, so it's taken me outside of the system where the supplier is maintaining the catalogue and the prices. Okay, so I'm not having to do that. My Proactis administrators are not having to do that. The end user is not having to contact people to say, oh, this price isn't up to date. It's all being maintained outside of the system. So the item has come back into Proactis along with the supplier, obviously that I've got my negotiated contracts with the item information, with the pricing, with the quantities I've entered. Where possible, we can get it to default coding as well. So I know the department I belong to or the cost center is defaulted that for me. The GL code hasn't been defaulted for me in this instance, but it doesn't mean to say it won't be. If I know that I'm always buying the same types of items from a particular supplier, if, for example, they're a facilities supplier, then obviously we can default the GL code to a facilities item code. Otherwise, it's available to be selected by the user. And obviously it will follow standard Proactis processes. So you'll code up your order as normal. Validation will take place as it normally would. You can add your attachments on if you need to. If you need to have attachments or other information downloading from the supplier's site, then potentially that could be possible as well. But you would submit that through the workflow, and then once it's fully approved, you have the option to send your order out electronically back to Amazon Business. And then when Amazon invoice you, they can invoice you electronically as well. Okay, so there's no further user intervention required to make sure the order goes out. There's nothing for the user to do in relation to providing the supplier with the order number. So we're not having to get the user to email the PDF over or phone the supplier and tell them what the order number is. It's all being done automatically. So it streamlines that whole buying process when you're talking about e-catalogs or marketplace. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel this one. I'm going to go back in and just run through a few more examples. So again, I'm going to select my e-catalog template. And if I know the supplier I want to buy from again, I can type the description in. So cleaning supplies. Okay, so it's come up with some items for me for these particular supplier. Now I've got the ability to compare items if I want to. Obviously you can compare against multiple supplier bases if you need to as well. Let's just select a few of those. And as I'm selecting the items that I want to compare, they're just appearing at the top of the screen here. So I've got 4 there. If I just select another one, I've got 5. So as I navigate in, I can see the items, I can compare them, I can see who the suppliers are, just as you would do with any other website. You know, if you were buying like off Amazon and you had multiple items you wanted to compare, it's a very similar concept. Okay, but we're not inside Proactis, we're outside. Our suppliers have provided the catalogs to us with the prices, and you've got the ability to compare those prices across your supplier base. So from here, I can choose what I want to do. I can add items to my cart. I can go back if I want to, back to results. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some of them in. Now, this is a demonstration system, and I have done some testing to ensure they do all come back. But in the event that they don't, I'll apologise up front. But I'm going to update those items to my cart. So I've selected the ones I want to purchase, and my cart has been updated. If I just navigate to my cart, transfer shopping cart, we're back in Proactis. It's as simple as that. Okay, it really is as simple as that. So all the items have come back with their descriptions. If I just expand them, I can see the contract number that's associated to my items. So I know I've got a contract with this supplier. I'm working with on contract spend here. Okay, I'm not dealing with maverick spend, going off buying, you know, random items. And obviously, as I've got a contract, if you've got integration, if you've got contract management, if you've got integration with contract management and P2P, then as you raise your orders, as you submit them for approval, as they're authorised, it will update and you'll have visibility of what's left on your contract. Okay, so all of it can be integrated if you wish. Okay, I'm just going to code this up and I'm going to submit it. Oh, hang on. Let me just pick something. Now you can use defaults and obviously just put it in once and have it apply to all lines, but I've chosen to do it the long way around today. I'm just going to validate my order and I'm going to submit it. And we've got budget checking. Okay, so we can clearly see where we've got overspend as well. So even though we've got a contract with our supplier, we know what we're buying. As we submit our transaction through for approval, based on the codes that we've selected or based on our cost center or GL code that we've used, obviously we can initiate budget checking as well. So our approvers will have visibility of their budgets and what we're spending before the invoice is coming in. Okay, so again, reducing maverick spend, ensuring that we're buying off contract, ensuring that we have the spend approved up front before the invoices come in to the business. So at this point, you know, when it goes off for approval, the approvers have a choice. They can reject the transaction if they wish. Okay. What you can do, if I just navigate back to the home screen as well, just back into the e-catalogue or the marketplace. So what you can do is you can, you can add multiple items to your basket from multiple different suppliers, which I'll show you and show you what Proactis will do. Now, again, I'm hoping this does actually work very well for me, as I hope. So I'm going to add some gloves to my basket, and I'm going to add some more cleaning supplies. So I've got a basket that has, I can view my cart. So I've got a basket that contains items from 2 different suppliers. Now I'm going to transfer this shopping cart back into Proactis. I'm going to hope this works. There we go, transfer. There we go. And what it's doing is it's proposing to create 2 different orders for me. So the user just goes off, obviously, you know, within with what permissions allow. We allow users to have access to multiple catalogues across our supplier base, but they can just add items to their basket and they don't need to worry about making sure that when they're creating their orders, they are for the same supplier. The system will be intuitive to know that it needs to create separate POs for each of the suppliers. So I can go ahead with the hexagon order and I can, let me just see if I validates. No, I don't need a project code on this one. Let's just submit that. So you can see here the GL code has come down for this one. That's been populated automatically. Let's just submit and ignore the budget check. So that order's gone through, that's been submitted, and the system has taken me back to the previous catalogue order that I was putting through. So I can now go in and I can manage this one. It will have saved it as a draft behind the scenes anyway, and I can come back to it later. But it does keep them. It does keep them and pause them so that you don't have to think, oh, I've forgotten what that last one was. So you might have lots of items in your basket within Marketplace for lots of different suppliers, but the system will remember that you've got the additional ones to process as you go through. And again, I can just submit my orders. Okay, and obviously you've got your view order capability. If I go in and search for my orders, I can search for the orders once some of them are authorised, some authorisations got in progress. But as I mentioned, the full capabilities of the marketplace and punching out to your suppliers, you do have the capability then at that point to send the order out electronically to your supplier. They get notified in the portal they've got an order waiting for them, and the invoice can either be flipped from the order that they've received. So via the portal, they can use PO Flip and flip the invoice and it comes into Proactis, or they can generate an invoice from their system, an electronic invoice, and it comes back into Proactis that way. Okay. So it's not the longest session today. So we've basically, just to recap, so I've shown you the capabilities of having catalogues outside of Proactis. Okay, so where you will potentially still have some items in Proactis for some of the suppliers that you buy from, but your stationery suppliers, your Amazon Business, your PPE or facility suppliers, the majority of them have catalogues that you can actually link to. So you're not having to maintain prices inside Proactis. And where you've got users raising just ad hoc orders against your supplier base now, they're getting estimated prices. They're not really sure exactly what it costs, in which case your invoices come in and they don't match. And they're having to go through discrepancy, the end users having to deal with discrepancies, they're having to then look back at what they requested originally, whereas all of that goes away. When you're buying directly from the supplier's website, they know the prices. All they're having to do is add it to the basket. Obviously, it comes back in for approval, but you're going to get much more accurate invoicing and better visibility and better reporting as well. Okay. So that is the end of our marketplace or e-catalogue demo today. So I'm not sure if there are any questions. If there are any questions, obviously, feel free to pop them in the chat or in the Q&A section on Teams. Sarah or Sabrina, are there any questions? I'm not sure if anyone has asked anything. I can't see it from my screen at the moment.
No, Christina, there's nothing at the moment.
Okay, no problem. Obviously, if anyone does want to reach out separately, that's absolutely fine. You all know who I am and how to contact me. So please feel free to send me an email if you want more information, or if you want to have conversations about your supplier base in particular. Obviously, all of our clients are different. You all work with slightly different suppliers. But if you want us to look at some of the suppliers that you buy from most frequently that do have a huge number of items in their catalogues, all those prices add up. So then we can have those conversations. I also, if you do think of anything, I'm running drop-in sessions on a Friday at 10:30 to 11. So please feel free to join if you have any questions then as well. Okay, and the recording will be made available. Thank you.